Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Hi, my name is Andrew, and to celebrate Spider-Man No Way Home coming out in 2 weeks, I'm going to be reviewing every Spider-Man movie coming up to Spider-Man No Way Home, starting with 2002 Spider-Man. So Spider-Man came out in 2002. I was one. I was a baby. I was an actual baby. But growing up, these movies with Toby Maguire was my superhero movies. I had this before. I watched this before Marvel movies came out. And I went back to rewatch it, and I was like, maybe my childhood memories of this movie would be skewed. And then I rewatched it, and I was like, holy shit, this movie kicks ass. So basically, let's talk about Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi, when he made this movie, it's different. It kind of set the tone for what superhero movies should be, with the campiness of 90s, 2000s. Yes, I mean, that's there, but I mean, overall, like, they developed these characters so well with actors that definitely define the roles. Like, I don't think Spider-Man would be the same if Toby Maguire didn't start out. Toby Maguire is Spider-Man, and I'm not just saying this because I grew up with these movies before Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man or Tom Holland, and we'll review those later. But Toby Maguire did something to this character that I didn't think superhero movies were about. Like, I remember watching, like, the Batman Forever, and I was like, ooh, bat nipples, no, bleh. But Spider-Man, what Toby Maguire did for this character is he, like, humanized him, almost. Like, we spent more time on the Peter Parker than Spider-Man, and they developed Peter Parker so well, in my opinion, that some people don't agree with, like, the campy dialogue, but that's true to his character. The whole scene when he's, like, discovering his powers in the cafeteria, and he, like, accidentally shoots his webs. I mean, first of all, unlike the comics, where he has his own, like, web shooters, this stuff actually comes out of his wrists. I didn't read the comics, so I didn't know that he was supposed to have web shooters. I didn't find that out until later on, but watching that scene when I was a kid, I was like, man, this is super cool. Like, it's coming out of him. Like, that's like an actual superpower. Like, it's like, oh my goodness. And like, when he grabs on to the cafeteria plate and he accidentally slings it into Flash, and you're just like, oh boy, you actually fear for Peter. But then he, like, runs off, and then Flash follows him, and then, like, we get to see this perfect, like, Sam Raimi, what he did with his cinematography is so beautiful in a way, because, like, these slow-mo shots, where, like, most movies, when they do slow-mo shots, looking at Batman v Superman, or, like, any of the DC movies, but where it's like, why is this here? Other if it's Flash. But in Spider-Man, it's showing one of his powers in such a way, and when you see the spitball slowly coming out, and then you see the fly just fluttering its wings very slowly, it's a cool scene, and it flashes back to reality, and he's, like, humiliating Flash, which has never happened. Like, he's never stood up to him before, and he didn't stand up to him now. He was just, like, defending himself. Continuing on, like, another thing I loved is, like, the character development. Like, right away we get to meet these characters of Kristen Dunst, Mary Jane, and then also James Franco's Harry Osborn, and we see, like, okay, they're like, they weren't all three friends, but they're setting them up as friends when they first start the movie, and then they develop it. Harry and Peter have a crush on Mary Jane. I love the whole scene where Peter is trying to impress Mary Jane by getting a car, and he sees an ad, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna go wrestle. I mean, I got these powers, perfect. And that's when Uncle Ben, I know a lot of you, like, especially now after seeing it twice, seeing the Uncle Ben's death scene is hard. And it is hard, especially this one. And it's, like, not repeated, because I feel like it's done so well, where it's the birth of Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man right then and there, and when Uncle Ben dies, knowing that he could have done something to stop him, that is when Spider-Man is born. And I think Sam Raimi did an excellent job on fleshing out like the reasons why Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Not the reason why Spider-Man is Peter Parker, but the reason why Peter Parker is going to become Spider-Man. And it's done perfectly. And this movie would not be as great if the villain wasn't like top-notch, next level. And I do mean it. Willem Dafoe in this movie, I feel like he is a scene stealer. Like, he plays the role to perfection. With the Goblin laugh, and Willem Dafoe did great as the Green Goblin, and he did great as Norman Osborn. What's nice about Willem Dafoe is that he makes the character relatable. Like, we understand like why he's doing it, and like they did it to perfection. Like, and we're all like, yeah, we kind of root for the guy, but we also like, we need Spider-Man to win. And he's brutal. I mean, when he finally figures out Spider-Man's identity, the scene where he attacks Aunt May, it's like it proves that he's like an overall just bad dude. Like, he's like, this serum is messing me up mentally, and I'm gonna frick some people up. They're gonna screw some people up. And without Norman Osborn, I feel like this movie would not have been as good if it didn't start off with Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe, again, was just so... Watching this movie as a kid and seeing him, he was frightening. And he's like... And you see the strength and the intimidation from him, especially at that last scene where he's just slugging Peter around. Like, you can see him bleeding. And that's another thing why I love this Spider-Man movie so much, especially this first one, because it's brutal in those fight scenes. And you kind of have that fear of, is Spider-Man okay? Will he win? And it doesn't, without that brutality, it's really satisfying when Spider-Man overall does win. Yeah, it's a fantastic movie, and I give it all the credit for that. How have I not talked about J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson? Oh my goodness. I forgot how good he was playing this role until I just watched the movie. Like, he plays that character to such perfection that you wouldn't think that, like, you could find someone with the energy that you'd think that you would get out of a newscast person. Like, you wouldn't have think, like, J.K. Simmons would do that, but he plays that in such a role of just charismatic, fun, angry man that you're like, I can't help but watch him. He is such a scene stealer. And the one scene where the Green Goblin bursts in and he's like grabbing J. Jonah Jameson up by his neck and asking, who takes the pictures of Spider-Man? And he's just like, I don't know. That comes in the mail. Like, it fleshes out his character. Like, it does show that, like, he does give a lot of crap to his, like, employees, but he does care about them in a sense. And I did love that, like, little extra tidbit of character development. No, guys, but seriously, this movie is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching it as a kid, and to be fair, I kind of love the tone now. When I get older and I'm watching this, I'm like, man, I can't wait to show my future kids this movie. Like, these Spider-Man movies, especially this first one, started a whole generation of what superhero movies could be and can be, and it's no exception. So Spider-Man 2002 is a fantastic movie. I would suggest rewatching it if you haven't watched it in a while, or maybe you have already rewatched it. So with that being said, I'm going to give Spider-Man 2002 an A. So it's a good movie. Next time I'll be covering Spider-Man 2. That one's also a really good movie. I can't wait to cover that one with you guys. But have you guys rewatched it? Are you guys excited for the new Spider-Man No Way Home movie? Are we going to see Toby Maguire and Andrew Garfield? So whatever you think, comment below, let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.